It's Tuesday, the 25th of June. Hello, kia ora. I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us. Well, we've got this new low pressure centre that's rapidly formed overnight and is lying off the eastern side of the North Island at lunchtime Tuesday. Heavy rain pushing in. Gisborne and Wairoa would be the two main centres most affected at the moment and going into this afternoon by the wind and the rain. But really anywhere across the eastern side from Napier up to East Cape over towards the eastern side of Bay of Plenty. Those are the areas most exposed as the centre of this low starts to move closer in towards the eastern side. It stops around about 6 p.m, we think, coming any closer to us, and by then it should start to go back out to sea. So it's sort of coming in like this, pulling in closer, and then it should start to drift away. High pressure down here is guiding it, so that's the same blocking high pressure zone that's kept low pressure around New Zealand for getting close to 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks by Thursday that low pressure has impacted the country. This is the new low centre though, and so this is where all the energy is now being focused. It's no longer down out over towards the Tasman. Still a little bit of low pressure here, but not as much as we've been seeing. Here is the rainfall from 6 o'clock tonight through until 6 p.m. Thursday, 48 hours of rain. This area here in northern Hawke's Bay could be seeing closer to 200 millimetres of wet weather in just the 48 hours from this evening. It doesn't include some of the rain that might fall across this afternoon as well, but not so much. Once you get down to Wairoa Upper, it tapers off, and at least within the next 48 hours, and not so much coming into Canterbury, although some coming into Canterbury, maybe 5 to 10 millimetres, possibly a little more for you. But the main risk zone, really anywhere you see here in the purple shading. Midnight tonight. So the low has now potentially, I say potentially because this is still developing as we record this, and so it's always a little hard to predict something that's in the middle of forming. But by midnight tonight, it looks as though it's starting to pull back away from New Zealand a little bit. Now, you may not notice that if you live along the eastern side here because the air pressure has dropped further. And the lower the air pressure goes, the more isobars you get circling around it, and that means windy weather. So even though the centre is moving away, the severe weather is still pushing back out towards the country, and so that means not a lot of change if you're living here along the eastern side, but the heavy rain may slide around a bit. It's not necessarily locked into the same place the whole time, and the wind flow could move around a bit more southeasterly, Mahia Peninsula right in the thick of it by midnight tonight. So just to quickly show you again what happens at midnight tonight, this is where the low pressure zone is off the eastern side, drawing in heavy rain. Let's animate Wednesday and Thursday, and you can see the low slowly drifts further away from the country. So the worst of the weather should be overnight tonight and across Wednesday, and then it starts to ease as it moves further away from you. Lunchtime Wednesday, a little hard to see, but it says 988. As the central air pressure, so that's still quite low, but the distance between East Cape and the centre of that low, or storm if you want to call it that, has become greater. It stretches further away on Wednesday, but because that, as I said, the air pressure has dropped, some of that severe weather still pushing out away from the centre. So that means severe weather risks remain around Hawke's Bay in particular, northern Hawke's Bay, where that heavy rain carries on, and those strong winds as well, which could be damaging in some places. But over here on the other side, sunnier, drier weather, maybe still a bit cloudy at times, but it should be a lot drier as the hills and ranges along here block and shoulder all of that rain. Not as wet on Wednesday for parts of Canterbury, some of that wet weather coming in tonight. It's a little bit on the borderline, as you can see, and it's colder, the blue line showing that it's much cooler with that easterly wind blowing into Canterbury and the rest of the South Island. Thursday, if you're in the South Island, sorry if we're not talking about you so much, but there isn't a lot going on. Fog and frost risks are back again through inland areas in particular for the frosts, and certainly the temperatures are down, but most of the attention is still up here for the eastern North Island on Thursday, still raining and not quite as windy. The wind's certainly easing back, and the central air pressure 994, that's a sign that the low is weakening because there's high pressure down here cutting off any southerly to help spin it. So going to Friday, the low weakens even further. Finally, it moves off from the eastern side here. There might be a couple of early morning showers, still got that southerly breeze, and it means that that low pressure zone that we've had around us now for quite a while will be with New Zealand for about 15 days in total before it finally moves away. And here comes the next cold front coming in on Friday on Matariki. So for those of you who have got the day off, it's pretty dry and settled across New Zealand with high pressure in charge in the north, foggy areas here and there, a cold night, and fairly sunny weather coming in for a lot of places, even into the North Island, on the other side of the North Island, away from the low. Sunnier weather coming through due to the south to southeasterly airflow. Now into Saturday. Rain band comes in, pretty weak one. I said this the other day. It's a cold front trying to move up the country, high pressure to the north, kind of falls apart. But there will be a few showers coming through on Saturday for you. And then our final map shows high pressure still parked up to the north here, southwesterly winds, cloudy along the western side, sunnier for those of you in the east here, and a cold front comes into the lower part of the South Island, a bit of snow falling on the mountains and ranges. And I think as we go into the start of July, which will be on Monday of next week, temperatures drop even further. We'll have our next Climate Watch update for you on Monday of next week as we take a closer look at how July is shaping up. But that is all from me for today. Don't forget, all the weather forecasts on our website update every hour. So if you're finding all the maps and models a bit confusing, just log on there, take a look at that, have a look at the Met Service warnings and watches, and you should be pretty clear in your head about when it starts, when it eases, and even if you're in the firing line at all or not. So that's all from me. See you again tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next update.